now, right? With with the coronavirus and whatnot. You were telling when my wife was talking to you a little bit. You were talking about how they, I don't want to say fast tracked you, but like as you guys were going through your training and you were wrapping up, they kind of just said, "Put
Yeah.
a button on it, right? Time to get out there."
Yeah. So it's funny, a lot of guys, when they finish, or guys and gals, when they finish the police academy, they go from, a lot of them start on the street like the next week, or a couple weeks after that, so they have very minimal training. Well, my department, thankfully, they take the time to really train us up, make sure we're all ready to go to hit the road, set us up for success. And so we have an additional pipeline after the basic law enforcement academy. We have a post academy training. And so you spend about a month out on the range and do a bunch of other stuff. It's really good training, awesome stuff. Gets me back to the Army days. But we're about a month into it, like literally a month into it. And we were supposed to start our PTO, our patrol training, in May. And they just walked in and they were like, "Hey, we need you guys, in the rotation." So obviously, there's a little bit of concern because they have these, 5 fresh recruits that are, commissioned police officers, and they're like, "Hey, we got to get these guys out on the road to, because if any of our cops start getting sick, who's going to back them up? It's going to be these guys." So bottom line is they're like, "We got to get you guys out on the road sooner than later. We don't want you sitting here. We want you guys out there on the road." So they pushed us up a whole month and just basically cut our training by a full month, which was, great for us because we're hungry. We want to get out on the road, obviously. But then it's also, you have this realization like, oh crap, I just missed out on a week of vacation in April that I was supposed to get, and I'm moving houses in April. So I'm going to move houses next week and then just pretty much roll right onto the street. So it'll be a crazy time of life, but what else is new? It always is. So
That's insane. How much similarity have you found with between your background in the military and then going into law enforcement? Like obviously being in the military helps a lot because a lot of guys when they do go in law enforcement after the military, some departments it ends up being just a quick lateral transfer with just some minor things that need to be done. Different departments you have to go through an academy, kind of like what you went through.
yeah,
But yeah, so how was that transition for you so far and the similarities?
very simple. I think the biggest thing, lots of similarities, obviously, with the attitudes, the work ethic, the people that you're
Right.
working with, and all that. But I think for me, the biggest difference is you're expected to operate on your own. Before in the military, you're working as a team, you're working as a platoon. We would go out on an op and we have 30 to 60 guys, going out after 2 people.
Hmm.
Whereas now I'm going to be out on the road and it'll be me and maybe one other person, maybe 2. And if we got to get this guy in handcuffs and get him arrested, then that's what we got to do. So that's the expectation. So it's a very different. In the military, it's a tactical advantage.
Hmm.
You're put at risk for sure, and obviously the rules of engagement are very different. And I would say that that's the other big difference is, in the military, you have your rules of engagement. You go into every deployment. I would say every single deployment I went on, all 10 of them were different rules of engagement. When we could engage, when we couldn't, how we do it, what our escalation of force looks like, and all that. As a cop, um, it's pretty much the same. You're sticking to the same use of force policy. Very similar to everybody across the state. So, but it's you and maybe a couple other guys that are doing the same thing. You're protecting people, but now you're doing it in your own backyard, and then obviously you're doing it with people that you probably haven't trained. Like I'm going to be working with cops that have obviously been on the department for between now and 30 years or whatever.
Right.
But they've never worked with me. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm capable of, and I don't know what they're capable of. So it's very different in that you don't grow up with the same people. You're not working with the same people, going out on calls with the same people. I mean, eventually we will. And, the more time I spend out of the department, I'll have gone out on calls with everybody. But all this is still new. So for me, it's just, learning and understanding the laws. How do I do my job efficiently, effectively within the Constitution, within the Washington state law, and within policy and procedure of the department? And then, that's really the biggest difference is staying in that lane and figuring out, okay, how do I affect, the change that I want to see, whether it's, engineering or educating or enforcing the law, figuring out what kind of cop I want to be and all that. So I'm super excited to kind of see what my first training officer kind of gives me. And so it's so funny because I'm used to being the trainer. I'm used to being the mentor, the guy who teaches you how to be a ranger. And now I'm going to be, oh, I just got kicked off my computer.
I still see and hear you, man. You're good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think.
And now, yeah, and now I'm going to be the new guy again. And so that's exciting. I'd been there before, obviously. When I went over to snipers, it was the same deal.
Sure.
But now I'm going to be the guy that's, learning from the veteran who's been doing it for 20 or 30 years or whatever it is. So I think, as far as differences, if a military guy, anybody coming out of the military, not anybody coming out of a special operations gig, they can put somebody in handcuffs. They know how to fight. They know how to shoot. They know how to drive. You come out with all those skills, but you don't know the laws. You don't know the elements of a law. You don't know, or a crime rather. You don't know elements of a crime.
Right, like all the penal codes, all the different things. It's like
you don't know when can I put hands on somebody. When can I not? When do I have reasonable suspicion? When do I have probable cause? What are those things? So in the academy, that's what I learned. That's what I focused on was, hey, this is the stuff I'm taking away, is the stuff that, how do I effectively do my job responsibly and be a good cop? And then, still there's the human side of it too. I'm making it sound like we're just going out there and enforcing the law and beating people up, and that's not the intent at all. Yeah. There's also the human side of it. You pull somebody over and it's a single mom and she has 3 kids in the car, and her insurance is out of date. Are you really going to give her a $550 ticket? That's what it is in my city. And so it's like it's one of those things where you kind of have to have the human side of it too. So and the great thing about that is it's my discretion, the police officer's discretion. So
yeah, you get that term, spirit of the law, letter of the law, like what are you guys trying to accomplish, both in that moment and then overall, as far as like the big picture. I think that's where a lot of people end up missing out on a lot of things, especially the ones that, because I mean, you kind of backtrack a little bit, law enforcement, it's one of those things where you're talking about, I mean, it's probably one of the hardest jobs where, and you see this now that you've gone through all aspects, both in military and law enforcement, right? And this isn't a knock on law enforcement in general. I think it has more to do with the resources that they're granted by the county, the city, the state, depending on, which jurisdiction they fall under, right? A lot of law enforcement agencies, they're vastly underfunded. And I don't mean this in a way where they need, more equipment to be able to put more of a lockdown on citizens. But, I don't mean that at all in any stretch of the imagination. I'm talking about in regards to some of the training. You see, I mean, all you have to do is go watch a lot of those body cam or dash cam footage of, situations where 2, 3, 4 cops are dealing with somebody that's unruly, gets out of hand, and the guy, there's 3 or 4 of them, and a guy still ends up getting a gun or escaping whatnot because they don't have the proper training. As simple as like a takedown defense, or how to properly subdue somebody, how to choke somebody out, like jiu-jitsu, like a ground game. And that it's missing because they weren't given that type of training, as far as what they're doing and what's going on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's where it's so difficult with the job they do. And then especially in today's day and age where it became so popular over the last few years to not only bash law enforcement, but, borderline make them public enemy number 1 because of the internet, with every one
mistake.
Yeah, one mistake, one screw up, one dumbass, right? Because in every field you have some idiot, right, that was power tripping or made a mistake, or let's face it, there's just bad people, right?
Yeah.
Uniform. Yeah. There's some bad people out there, and that doesn't encompass the entirety of law enforcement or the military or in any facet, right?
That's what I was just about to say. I think it's we can sit here and talk. I can tell you stories about terrible doctors, terrible nurses, terrible teachers, terrible waitresses or waiters. But though, what's funny is in those fields, typically you're like, oh, this teacher, they're just terrible. They don't know how to get through to my kid, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean every teacher's like that. And so you're right. In law enforcement, it's the opposite. It's one cop makes a mistake in Tennessee, and then the rest of us have to pay for it because now we're all that person and we've all made that same mistake. And it's like, well, no, it's just that's what the news media wants to focus on. That's the story of the week is, somebody making a mistake on the other side of the country, and now the rest of us have to pay for it. Now we have to implement policy and procedure to protect us from something that we didn't even do.
Sure.
You know, um, and so they always say it's every policy or procedure that we have in the department, in every department, is attached to somebody's name. You know, this person messed up, so it's it's Officer Smith policy or whatever. It's that person's. It's their name is just attached to it because.
Why are we doing this? Well, because of so and so in Denver.
Because one person screwed it up for the rest of us. Exactly. Yeah. No, and I couldn't agree more. Like it goes back to people always ask me, well, what's the difference between the Rangers? You guys just get more money, more funding, better funding, and it's like, yeah, that's true to a degree. We have better tools and we have more assets and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we also do the basics and we do them very well. Yeah. That's the difference between us and a regular infantry unit. Yeah, we have different helmets, different boots, different pants. But at the end of the day, we practice battle drills until we're blue in the face, and then we do it live with a gun and with targets and reactive targets and moving targets. And then we do it under night vision for the same conditions. And then we start doing it out in the middle of the woods. And so we have to master those basics first. And then you move on to squad live fires and platoon live fires and company live fires. And that's the difference between the Rangers and a regular infantry unit. Right. And that's the difference between a good police department and a bad police department. You do the basics very well and you build off of that, push your foundation out and build off of that. And that, the same could be said for business too. So.
No, man, that makes sense. And, what's interesting about what you were saying there is the concept of like the basics, no matter what level of, military, law enforcement, business, whatever you're doing, if you can't do the basics and the fundamentals well and make sure that you're constantly going back to those and putting those checks and balances in play for what you're doing there, then yeah, you're definitely going to set yourself up to fail or to have massive screw ups and hit more bumps along the way with what you're doing, because you're not going to have that those basic elements of what you're doing, that foundation of what you're doing as I don't even want to say habit. I want to say as what's the term I'm looking for?
Basically, your lowest level of training. And we say that a lot in the military. You're always going to fall back to your lowest level of training, right?
What do you revert back to, right?
Exactly. So the same thing, man. The day that I got my black belt in martial arts, that's what my instructor taught me, basically. My master taught me that day. He's like, so, we finished this. It was like a 4-hour ordeal, my black belt test. They just beat the crap out of me, like 12 black belts just, beating me up and doing all kinds of tosses and throws. And we're getting after it for 4 hours straight. And at the end, he goes, what was your go-to move at the end? And I was like, honestly, just like block and throw a punch. And he's like, oh, it was basics, right? That's what you fall back on every single time. And so I've carried that over into the military, into business, as a cop. If you, I hate to say this is going to make me sound like a total nerd, but it's okay to be a nerd. I go home and I practice drawing my gun every night. I practice mag changes. I practice getting my handcuffs out, turning my radio on, flipping the channels. Those basic things are going to make the big difference, in the one firefight that I might get into maybe someday as a cop. You know what I mean? And there's so many like what ifs and blah, blah, blah. But, that's what I'm training for, is the worst day of my life. And hopefully it turns out to be one of the best days of my life. That's what I want, and I think that's what people need to focus on as a whole. If your thing is fitness, do the basics well, be able to squat well, deadlift well, bench well. Right. If you can't do an air squat well, should you be squatting 500 pounds? No, because you probably can't do it properly, So it goes into everything, it just carries over so much.
No, that makes sense. And, and what you said there, as far as like the reps, that's awesome what you're doing, because what you're doing there is you're creating muscle memory, right? You have that neural pathway of where that becomes second nature, where you're not stumbling and fumbling. And if you do have to react to a situation, every millisecond counts, in a situation. I don't have to tell you that, with what you're doing, but like I said, I think that's where it helps to have that military training when you do transition over into being law enforcement, because you do get there are some elements of law enforcement where you go through, besides the academy itself, some of them are great, some of them are not so great, depending on the funding and the type of academy. Like you said, some are good, some are not so good. And you end up not having that fundamental training and those basics where they become second nature and it becomes muscle memory to the point where when you do run into something like that, your go-to when you see those situations go bad on, like those body cams and those dash cams, is because you're watching those guys revert back to their basic, and their basic is they have no idea how to fight. They're scared shitless. They have no idea what to do when they end up on the ground. Whereas somebody who's had that training time and time again, and those repetitions go, oh, okay, this is comfortable. I know what to do on the ground. I know where I know where my hand's supposed to go. I know where my foot's supposed to go. I know how I'm supposed to position my hips. I know how to subdue this guy. For sure, you don't need 4 guys trying to grab one dude who doesn't have a weapon, and then all of a sudden you guys are getting in each other's way, and all of a sudden now that guy's up and before you on the ground, and he ran to his car and grabbed the gun. Right? And you've seen lots of videos like that, and it's pretty sad and it's scary because the situations cost when they didn't have to.
Yeah,
lack of training. So, yeah,
I think it's and the same could be said too. When it comes to basics, I think a lot of people overlook that in their fitness and health. Yep. I mean, as a gym owner, I get emails, texts, phone calls. Hey, man, I really, I want to take my stuff to the next level. What do I need to do? I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. I want to, get leaner, whatever it is. And people come to me with goals, and a lot of times their goals are, whether it's physique or whether it's performance related or whatever. And they say, how can I get leaner? Let's just say. And I always say, all right, man, well, tell me about your day. And they'll be like, well, yeah, I get up at like 4 a.m. I get the kids off to school. I was like, yeah, when's the first time you eat something? And they're like, oh, I eat at like, I have a protein bar at like, in the afternoon. And I'm like, what? Okay, that's interesting. And then they're like, yeah, and then I come home and, I'll go work out for an hour or 2 hours, and then I'll come home and then I'll, eat dinner and, and I'm like, okay, well, what are you having? What are you eating? And it's always, I know they're lying. Because they start searching for the answer. And
it's like, like that magic place up here in the corner of their brain.
Exactly. And so it's like, well, bro, let me tell you what I'm going to do. And then they'll say, yeah. And then I usually, I head to bed around like 11 or midnight. And I'm like, okay, so you're getting like 3 to 4 hours of sleep,
Right.
And so I always tell people, like, it's the 23-hour rule. You spend an hour in my gym a day. But what are you doing with the other 23 hours of your day? Are you getting 6 to 8 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours of sleep? Are you getting the proper amount of sleep for your body to recover from those workouts? And that's what people always want. They want a meal plan and a workout plan. And it's like, if you're getting 4 hours of sleep,
yep,
I'm not going to give you any sort of plan. The plan is right now for 2 weeks, go home and get 8 hours of sleep, or at least 7 hours of sleep, and then come talk to me, and then if they can do that, then I'll move forward with them. And that's the frustration I have as a coach, or as a, even just a gym owner in general, is like, our lifestyles have become so crazy. But I promise you, as a gym owner, as a reservist, as a cop, I still prioritize 7 hours of sleep at least a night. I still eat well. I still focus on my exercise. I don't overdo it. If I'm tired, I just go to sleep. I don't. If I wake up and I'm like, all right, it's time to train, and I feel like crap, I don't need to go train. So my body's not ready for it. You know what I mean? And people that's what they really miss, I think, in health and fitness in general. And then people end up just stressing themselves out more about it. And then, you have all these other coaches that are like, here's my meal plan. You should buy it for a low price of $49.99 and a recurring plan of $20. It's like, that's great for that person. And I'm sure it works for somebody. But for the majority of people, they get these super complex, which you know what I'm talking about, super complex meal plans, workout plans, where they need bands and straps and wraps and barbells, kettlebells, and a treadmill and all this other crap. And it's just like,
that's why.
Right. And it doesn't just go for CrossFit athletes. This is anybody.
Just like at any level, right? It's the coach is trying to get the individual, like they're projecting, right? Oh, you know what I could do with him? I could do this and I could do that and I could get them there.
Right.
I'll throw bells and whistles at him. And the reality is, with what you just said, it's the same thing. Start with the basics.
The basics. Exactly.
You sleep consistently. Yep. And then when you write a program too, what I found with having been a trainer for 15 years was compliance factor, right?
Yep.
Can I get to know my client? And then, like you said, you start talking to them and figure out where they are on a day-to-day basis. What do they do? What's their schedule? What is their life like? What's their home life like?
Oh
Is
yeah.
Al supportive of what they're doing? Do they have 5 kids, no kids, 10 dogs? What are they? What's their work schedule like? And then okay, so they may say and may want this type of a program, but
Right.
that's where you as a coach, as a trainer, you come in with your expertise and your knowledge and go, listen, I'm going to design you a program, at least like this first block. Let's start with like a 12-week block, right? Of where I want to see at least like 90% compliance, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and if you can get that compliance, then okay, cool, this guy's committed, this person's committed, and we
Right.
can kind of start taking it up to the next level, stress adaptation recovery, right?
Yep. Everybody wants to get to that sexy level today,
Yeah,
and it's like
right now.
we got to master the basics first, yeah, like you said, sleep, food, water, and
Yep.
then now let's worry about training. I just, you have to have that kind of step program, where it's just, otherwise you're just setting people up for failure. And that's, I hate doing that. I hate telling people like, well, you really need to just get to the gym more often. Like I hate that answer, like,
Right.
Sometimes that is the answer for those people that are, getting the sleep and getting the food and getting the water and all that stuff. And yeah, now it's time. Let's talk about training. But for the most part, most people, especially general population, it's, focus on the little things that'll give you the biggest return on investment, and it's going to be good.
So with with the gym, and then now transitioning, besides the reserves, out of the military and into, now you're going into law enforcement, especially this unique situation where you're going in. I would probably compare it to guys that were enlisting just post 9/11. I mean, they were fast tracking everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy time to get into law enforcement,
because they were doing such a drawdown period for so long, and then that happened, and they just had to start ramping up again. What's probably the biggest challenge you foresee once they lift some of the restrictions on, with the businesses and whatnot, and then as being a business owner as well, and going into law enforcement too at the same time? Do you already have kind of a balance of kind of how your schedule is going to look before all this happened?
Yeah, I think that's, it's being in the academy kind of threw me for a loop because it was 5 days a week, and most of my days were about 13-hour days. So it was kind of crazy. And I still had to, see my kids and spend time with them and stuff like that. But what it's done is it's definitely given me, again, that perspective. Like, okay, now I work 4 10s, which is totally different than working 5 13-hour days, and gives me some more time with my kid, gives me more time with my business and all that. So I've definitely been able to find more of a balance, which is funny now because the gym is closed. And I think, as I ramp up in training, I think the big thing for me is just finding a battle rhythm. I think that was one of the things that I definitely took away from the military too, is having a battle rhythm, waking up, getting my workout in, getting some work done, going out on a mission, coming back, maybe getting another workout in if I had the energy. Otherwise, get some food and go to bed and start over the next day. Same thing, And so I think for me, what I'm looking forward is getting up, getting to the gym, getting a workout in, doing some work in my gym, and then getting to my department and checking in, and then starting my day, and just, finding that battle rhythm again. And I think for me, that'll be the challenge. I'm going through some relationship changes now. I just, ended a 13-year relationship, which has forced me again to reevaluate what's important to me in a relationship. And so now that I've done that, kind of moving forward, figuring out what does that look like? What is my new relationship going to look like? What is spending half of the time with my kid going to look like? All that stuff. And so as far as being a police officer, I think it is a crazy time to become a cop. But just like when in 2008, when I got to my first deployment, and it was one of the prime times to be a ranger,
Right.
It's no different, and I think right now for us as cops, we just have to make people understand that we care. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to help you. So I got the call, and I'm showing up. I'm here to help. And I think it's the same thing too. And so for me as a gym owner, it's the same thing. I want my members to feel like they can come to me and talk to me. I've had calls, texts, emails about, hey, can I borrow some equipment? Yeah, of course. I'll meet you at the gym. What time you want to come in? I think that's the same thing. I'm here for you. Help me help you. And I think if cops can take that attitude moving forward and just be there to help people, and they're already doing it. That's the thing, especially in our department. It's been great, and I think that's even in my department. I feel like I'm so welcomed as a new guy.
Right.
It's not like the old days where as a ranger you're getting hazed until the sun comes up, and then go off and do a mission, and then come back and do the same thing every day. It's very different. It's a very different climate than I've ever been used to. Very professional. Everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants to make sure you're going to succeed as a police officer. Now it's just getting out and doing the work and getting the reps in. So I don't know. I'm excited, man. I'm pumped.
That's awesome, man. What are your thoughts on this whole process with what's going on in both, because you're in a unique situation where you're on the law enforcement side, so you're having to well, I don't want to say enforce, because I was actually talking to a couple different people about this today with the whole forced shutdowns and the forced businesses and what's considered an essential business and non-essential.
Oh,
yeah. And then then also being a gym owner, because again, we've been, Anna Marie, my wife, and she's a strength coach, and even me and you, we were getting ready to had just started talking about hosting a fundraiser for OSD, and they're a large veteran support group, nonprofit, and obviously doing that at the end of May is probably not going to work out. It's going to be a little bit too short, so we'll talk a little later on about pushing that back a little bit. But just the concept of like, who's deciding what's essential, what's not essential? How is it that a strength gym, even a place as big as yours, which probably on average, like on how big it is, because how many square feet is your gym? It's huge. Is it like a big warehouse?
7,200. Yeah, it's big.
Yeah. Okay, so
big place.
Yeah,
big.
Yeah. So you could literally, talk about social distancing, right? Between every rack and whatnot. You could for sure set people up 10 feet apart. Because your classes are what, 10 to 20 people, something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not okay, but you can go to a liquor store or a dispensary, and I don't have a problem with dispensaries at all. CBD is super helpful. A lot of but hundreds of people pass through those places a day. Thousands of people pass through those places a day, and there's no real hard, implementation of any kind of quote unquote social distancing going on. You're touching the same door handles, same doorknobs. It's not like the cashier, the person behind the register, or wherever they are, the people working there are changing gloves every single transaction, right? Because they're not doing that. So there's this false sense of safety and security going on. I get the concept. I get the idea of just the more people stay home, the better as far as this. I got no problem with that whatsoever. Right. But telling me and telling everybody else that your gym or my buddy's strength gym that holds 10 people at a time can't be right. Whereas health and wellness is one of the most important things, and every expert, from the CDC, infectious expert, they've all said the same thing. What's the best fight against this kind of moving forward? Just be healthy. I think the one thing that's going to be good about this that comes out of this whole thing is a lot more people are going to start taking their health a lot more seriously. Because
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Think about it, right? Think the vast majority of people that it affects, we're not even talking about, and I'm not even talking about like the elderly. I'm talking about the majority of people that it affects that are 20 to 45 years old, right? And I'm right there. I'm 40, okay, but and it affect, you're still going to have some people it goes right through. You have no problems at all whatsoever. They just via testing to find out you have it, but you don't have any systems, but you become a carrier. Some people have some system, but they, it's minor. It's almost like a strong flu for a couple of weeks, and then you're okay. Okay. But if you have a compromised, immune system, if you have other issues already, like, morbidly obese, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, all the things that come into play.
I don't mean to smile. I'm smiling. I'm trying not to smile. I'm trying not to laugh.
I know, because we're on the same page with what we're saying here, which is basically, and everybody's saying the same thing, in the medical field, which is the best thing moving forward to fight this and any other disease is just your overall health and wellness. Be healthy, right? Be in shape, right? Eat well, all those things, right? So shut down the gyms, but you can keep a store open where thousands of people. It doesn't make any sense to me at all whatsoever, and it's actually really frustrating. And you're already seeing businesses push back in Washington and California. People are filing lawsuits. There, what's the legal claim? A lot of legal scholars and organizations have said at best it's kind of a gray, murky area, because no real thing. So
you're forcing me to shut down my business, and this is Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, I'm going to give you a few answers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the gym owner answer. I'm going to give you the cop answer, and then I'm going to give you my answer.
Oh, and let me do one more thing in the roll fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
LA announced that if businesses that were ordered to shut down don't shut down, this is a part of LA. They just announced this in the paper the other day. I saw it in an article today. They said they may resort to shutting off their power and their water. So again, these are especially like the gyms. Pay their bills, pay their utilities, pay everything. Follow the same processes, if not even more to a T, stringent as far as like we have a garage gym, right? My wife has a business license. Client comes through. We have like maybe 2 people in there at a time, right? Okay. Yeah. And we steam cleaned the hell out of everything, wiped down everything. We went above and beyond, and we still par down how many people are coming and whatnot. But yeah, so
I'm trying not to laugh. So yeah,
you're gonna shut off my power, my water, and I pay my bills and everything else too. But the liquor store across the street can be open.
Right. Yeah, I think that first thing is, I'm not gonna go into the essential business and not essential businesses, because I think that is ridiculous. We were built on businesses. We are the one country that's what we built our, the cornerstone of America is small businesses. You know what I mean? So it's just funny that people, I think it's, my dad owns a bar, a restaurant, so he shut down too. Like, everybody feels this effect. Like, it's not, and he's in Chicago, but it's one of those things that, man, if the best you can do as a government, if you can force me to shut down, but the best thing you can do as a government is tell me here's a loan at a 3.75% rate, it's ridiculous. I think that's, so as a business owner, I'm super frustrated. And I think at the same time, there are people out there who are at risk. Obviously, we both know that. There are people out there, and those people should stay home. Those people should be in their homes and be quarantined and stay safe. And then, there's the rest of us, people that, and I'm not saying that we should take risks, this is where I have to be careful as a gym owner. I'm not saying I want to take risks. What I'm saying is, like you said, we have a 7,000 square foot gym. I can have 5 people in here working out, and we can disinfect the heck out of all of our equipment at the end, before and after, and have a safe workout, and still operate, and right, still have income, and still, continue to push forward. And so there, it's a double-edged sword, I think. And then as a police officer, I have to tell you that I know my city, my department, we have too much stuff going on. We're not going to sit here and enforce the, some of the, we literally, like, we're not going to be dispatched to calls where there's people that are, bunched up more than, X amount of feet together. That's just not what our priority is. Our priority is education. Like you said, hey, be healthy, wash your hands, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Yeah, be safe. Don't take risks, stuff like that. That's the priority that the department is taking, is education.
Well, that was my thing I was going to say, was many, and this is something like you're breaking, right? Many heads of law enforcement, both in Washington, California, and different various areas, besides, little pockets in New York, and don't get me started on that, have said, like, we're not going to enforce this. Like, we're not arresting anybody because, number one, it's just too much of a gray area. And number two, we just don't have the resources. We don't have the resources to arrest and lock down an entire city, an entire state, an entire county, and right, what it's more of just be smart and be safe. And also, here's the thing a lot of people aren't talking about, and you could probably talk about it a little bit. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But, and you're starting to see it here in Tacoma, because I live here in Tacoma, and you're going to be working for the city of Tacoma, is the businesses that have had to shut down for more than a day, now a week, 2 week, restaurants, bars, you name it, stores, whatever it is, have to shut down. Okay. Everybody's starting to board up their windows, almost like a hurricane's coming. You know why? Yeah. Because of the crime wave that's going to come. Yeah. Because everybody knows that law enforcement is going to be taxed to a T dealing with everything else. Okay. And nobody's talking about that. They've, you guys are already, having to respond to the highest denominator, and the lowest things are going to get pushed by the wayside, So in any natural disaster, and this is considered a natural disaster, what happens, right? Theft, burglary, looting goes up, right? Because and you guys are taxed to a T as far as like your ability to be able to handle things, right? Just from sheer manpower, right?
Oh, so, yeah. I mean, our department was taxed before this. Now we're even more so, and so I think, at the end of the day, again, I'm not telling business owners to take risks. I'm not saying I'm going to take a risk as a business owner, because, like I said, we're shut down too. But I think at the end of the day, there has to be a better solution, you know. And I'm not saying that I have all the solutions. I'm just a business owner and a cop. I'm not, you know, the smartest person in the room by any means. But I will tell you that, you know, people, if the world's going to end, it ain't going to be because I was outside. You know what I mean? And that's like my biggest thing is people are, as we talked about earlier about stress and how it's relative.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to people that are super stressed out and super freaked out about all this stuff. Stay home, be
Yeah.
safe, take care of yourself, take care of your family, be safe. Don't take risks. Absolutely. But then the rest of us, like, I still have to go to work. You know what I mean? I don't get a choice. You know, I don't have that luxury. And so you know, I'm still going to work out. I'm still going to take care of myself. I'm still going to be healthy. You know what I mean? And if my time comes, my time comes. But I don't have a choice to stay home. You know, I don't have a choice to not live my life, to not take my kid to daycare. I have to take my kid to daycare because I got to go to freaking work,
Right.
because I got to, you know, do my job. So again, stress is relative. So if you're one of those people, you know, my advice to everyone is, if you're one of those people that is freaked out about all this, you should stay home. You should take care of yourself. You should board up your stuff. And as far as the crime goes, yeah, we were taxed prior to this. We're going to be even more taxed, you know, with everything going on. And you know, it sucks because you're going to see so many businesses start to close their doors for good. You know, there's so many businesses that probably, you know, we're just making it. And now, you know, they miss 6, 8 weeks, however many months this thing lasts, however long this is, they might not make it past this thing, you know? And so
Yeah. A
I've
lot of
already heard of a ton of gyms and a ton of businesses already shutting down. So it's like, I think at the end of the day, and then obviously my answer is, for, you know, on a personal level, this is not speaking for the, you know, anybody, the department, my business, anything like that. You know, live your life the way you want to live it, but don't tell people how to live their lives. You know what I mean? You know, if you're scared, stay home. If you're not, go out. You know, and live your life, because guess what? If the world ends, it's going to end, and you staying home in your house is not going to stop it from ending. It's not going to stop it from going on either.
yeah.
So, you know, don't tell people how to live their lives, because you couldn't do that before this. What makes you think you can do it now? And so it's just one of those things. Like, it's been a big frustration for me, and I know you guys feel the same way as business owners. But you know, just on a personal level, it's like, man, I've run into so many people that really just, they don't get that. Like, I get it. You know, you have the luxury of being able to stay at home with your kids, stay at home with your family.
Right.
I don't have that luxury. You know, I don't have that ability. I have to get out there. I have to live my life. And so don't try to tell me how to live my life, you know?
Well, and it's also blind ignorance too. It's just deciding that, like, you know, if the talking man on the TV said it, then it must be true, right? You
Right.
know,
Right.
and the reality is, like, look, when I was talking to, obviously, like, not the best place to have this conversation, but so I was just coming to the defense of a friend of mine. You know, somebody posted I was telling you, like, a video of her doing deadlift in, you know, and it's our garage, and it's our garage gym. Okay, but it's our garage, it's our gym. We built the gym for us, right? You know,
Right.
when we left our gym 3 years ago, we decided not to go open another gym again. And we decided, you know, with 5 kids, that we wanted to have a home gym. We wanted the flexibility and the freedom to be able to have that, go work out whenever we wanted to. And then just the business side of it started growing again, just via, you know, both of what we've done, first through my wife and then myself kind of getting back into it. And then obviously when all the gyms shut down, you know, having a couple people reach out and say, like, yeah, sure, you know, we just stepped up our game on the cleanliness of the gym. It was already clean,
Right.
you know, but as far as extra disinfecting, extra wiping down, you know, making sure we got, like, the, you know, the Clorox and out, I mean, everything, right? And it's like 2-3 people in there at a time, that kind of thing. And she posts one video of herself doing deadlifts at the gym, right? And she starts getting a bunch of hate online, you know, from a couple people, not a bunch, but, like, you know, a couple people, and really went off, and it was actually kind of frustrating. And I said, listen, you need to understand something. She's not gonna get, if she would have I remember what I said. I said, if she would have posted a video of herself pumping gas, or a video of herself going to the store where thousands of people go through there and touch thousands of things every single day, would you have the same outreach right now? No. The only reason why you're losing your shit right now is because somebody on TV said gyms need to be shut down. And you saw her in a gym, right? Our garage. Okay. And you obviously because of what somebody said on TV or what the government said. Now that's not okay. But if she would have been posting a video herself, like, "Hey, check me out! I'm pumping gas over here, woohoo!" You wouldn't have said shit, nothing. And
Yeah.
she touched something that 1,000 people touched that day in the last 2 hours. Those gas pumps. Okay, and I
Yeah.
you those attendants aren't going out there and wiping down every pump with like disinfectant wipes and alcohol wipes after every single use.
Right.
Not using those handles are using gloves. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a perception. It's the perception of security and the perception of
Exactly.
yeah.
That's
So
why I say if the world's going to end, if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. And if it's your time, it's your time. I'm sorry to say it, but yeah, if you're, that's why I say if you're one of those people that just really, 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 is afraid and can't stand the thought of catching, something that probably won't even kill you, then you should be home.
Yeah, and again, I told my wife this 2 weeks ago. I said I'm not concerned about. I told my kids this, right? Because we have 5 kids, right? My youngest
Yeah.
is 2 years old, my oldest is 11, right? And I told them the same thing. I said, look, I'm not worried about that aspect of it, like of the virus itself, as much as I would be with measles or the flu or anything else. I said I'm more concerned about everybody else freaking out and then crime starting to go up because whether it's hate, whether it's a fear mongering and buying all the toilet paper.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Yeah, people are gonna.
I was at the store with my brother, and there was some chicken there, and there was a great deal on chicken, and we buy a couple. He goes, "Hey, you want to get the other two?" I said, "No, I don't need all of them."
Right, right, yeah.
More, and it's the fear mongering, and then everybody freaking out. And the same thing, a few days ago, we're driving down the street to go get coffee, and at 6 a.m., and I see the sliding glass doors, the front doors of Walgreens right here on 6th Avenue. The whole thing's blown in. So somebody drove their car through there and just like robbed them, like in the middle of the night, right? Because they couldn't wait until the morning to buy the stuff. It's like food's everything's gonna be fine. But them doing that is what's gonna freak out somebody else. And then freak out somebody else, and then everybody starts hoarding food, and that's what creates the shortages.
Yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, it's no matter what, you want to be prepared, you want to be able to provide and all that, but
right.
It's I don't know how to say this. It's all gonna be okay, or it's not, but either way, it's still all gonna be okay. And that's what people don't realize. Like relatively, if we were to wipe out a lot of people on this planet, life will go on. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't, guess what? No more stress. Like it's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. Like people just it's just relative, man. People freak out because they can, and then like you said, the big man on the TV says it. It must be true. We all got to panic, And the worst thing you can do is say on TV, don't go out and buy all the toilet paper. Because guess what? Now everybody's going to go out and buy all the toilet, and it's just like it's ridiculous, man. It's crazy times. Yeah. So there's so much to go into on that front. I think it's just craziness, and people just need to take a chill pill, take a breath, realize that it's going to be okay, whether life goes on or not. It's still going to be okay,
Well, what's funny is just like what people are hoarding. Went to the store one day and all the rice was gone, but literally on the shelf right next to it was pallets of quinoa.
Right, right. Something that actually provides some protein.
Exactly.
It's more than one macro there, and you're taking all of the rice. It's like awesome.
It cracked me up. I was like, "This is awesome." Yeah. I bought like a whole pallet, and it was on sale too. So it was awesome.
Oh, and it's the blind leading the blind. I guarantee you how that conversation, and how it went down was one guy grabs a bag of rice and panic, and then the guy next to him was like, "Oh, I got to grab this rice too," and he grabs rice, and then next thing you know, people are just grabbing rice.
Yeah,
and it's like, you guys are the reason.
The bag of quinoa that's a third of the size of the rice actually makes twice as much quinoa than it does rice, and it's a complete protein. It's a seed. It's not a grain. But again, that's uneducated. Like being ignorant to what you're doing.
Right.
Anyway, man, I don't know. I can go on and on with this, but
no, it's all good. Hey, one thing we used to say in the military for just guys that just couldn't grasp things is we used to say, hey, you know what? This is good because the enemy needs targets too. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things like, hey, lowest common denominator, they're going to make it or they're not. I hate to be that guy, but it's just like, I know me and my family, we're going to be okay.
Right.
I'm going to take care of all my members. I'm going to take care of anybody I can. I'm going to help anybody I can. That's what I'm here to do. On this planet, I was put here to help people. Like, that's just what I want to do. At the end of the day, people just don't get it, you know?
Definitely, man. So just to kind of wrap this up, man, we've done it almost an hour and a half already. So uh, so you're getting ready to go out. When do you start going on patrol? In the next couple of weeks?
Early April. So,
Early April.
yeah, I don't want to be too specific, but yeah, early April. So it'll be good, man. I think for me, the biggest thing is just figuring out what kind of police officer I want to be, you know, figuring out what kind of helper I want to be, and then getting out on the street and actually making change. You know, I think that was one of the things that one of the reasons I got out of the military was to help people in my own backyard. You know, I
Right.
think in the military, you do all this stuff, you're going after all these high value targets, and it's really cool, and you're doing all this, but you know, we never made the news because everything we were doing was too hush hush. You
Right.
know, and it's not about the glory, it's not about that stuff, but it's like, you know, did I really stop a terrorist attack in the United States? Probably, you know, a couple of times. But I know that when I arrest somebody here and I put them in jail and they actually get convicted of a crime and they, you know, they get them off the streets, that's actually going to make a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, you know, so I think for me, it's just being able to affect change, you know, where I live, where I grow up, where my friends live, you know, it's all that stuff. You know, my ex-wife, she works in Tacoma, you know, I have so many connections with this area. Like it's just, you know, it's my home. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for you too, man. I think we need more law enforcement, you know, individual law enforcement like yourself, you know, both with the training background, the type of personalities you have. And
Appreciate that.
yeah, no, I'm from what I'm happy about it. And just kind of give everybody heads up, like what I was talking to you a little bit earlier is, you know, when we put this podcast together, part of it was to talk about, obviously just talk about yourself and your background and the gym and everything. And then also to promote this, fundraiser that we're going to co-host together at your gym. And so my wife has done a few competitions with Art over at his gym at Iron Legacy. You know, she's a starting strength coach and works for Barbell Logic online coaching. And she, you know, you guys have done some great competitions together. And I just started, you know, I had Glenn Banton on. He's the CEO of OSD, and they're a large nonprofit, like a veteran support group. And we talked about, like, I still wanted to get more involved with supporting that end of it. You know, I never served. I was in the military, but, you know, I have a lot big affinity for the military, a lot of family and friends in the military. And now that I have this, you know, smaller platform, I thought it'd be great to be able to start trying to give back in a different way. And, you know, so Art and I talked about putting together a fundraiser that was kind of a hybrid powerlifting / CrossFit you know, event competition, like kind of like a push pull, and then we would do like a hero wad. We get a couple you know, food trucks out there, and I even started reaching out and started having some different people donating items for like an auction. So the plan was to do it, I think we talked about like the end of May, right?
End of May, yeah.
End of May. So obviously with everything going on right now, you know, it's going to be a push depending on how long they do this lockdown for, and you know, when we want to do it. So I'm thinking, you know, we'll touch base again and maybe push it back to somewhere in the summer.
Absolutely.
But we're definitely going to do it. And look, if they start trying to push this thing more into June and July, screw them, dude. We're going to do it anyway. So
Heck yeah, dude. It's awesome, man. Powerlifting, CrossFitters, and veterans. Those are my kind of people. So I'm super excited to do it. We can't wait to, you know, collaborate with you guys. Anne Marie's been awesome. You know, I've obviously collabed with her on a bunch of stuff, and you know, you guys are just great people. So it's always good to have that network of just awesome people that are, you know, willing to step up and take responsibility. You know, so it's good, man.
for sure, brother. Well, listen, man, I want to let you get going here. Don't want to hold you too much longer. I will. I'll post everything about the gym and everything on the website, and also on the podcast show notes itself. And if there's anything else you want to say or leave with us, man, go for it.
No, just I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for having me on. We'll definitely talk soon.
For sure, man. God bless you, man. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Take care. And